Hi everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Sheffield Steel, talking to business owners that have taken it to lockdown. None more so than the two people that I'm speaking to today. I'm delighted to be joined by Karl and Dean from KDA and of Backoops, and we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail shortly. So welcome both of you.
Hello.
Hello.
I like that how you did that in tandem. Did you agree that beforehand, Dean at the start, and then Karl would say something after?
Oh, you see, we're that good of a team now.
Yeah, all right, whatever, you'll tell me anything. Right, okay, so, obviously these are the lockdown interviews, so first and foremost, let's start with you, Karl. Introduce yourself and a little bit about KDA/Backoops, and Dean, if you want to add anything to it, please do.
Certainly will.
I'm Karl. I'm from KDA Web Services. We've traditionally provided managed hosting services for customers for 20 years this year. We've spotted a bit of an opportunity. There's something that we provide to customers at the moment that we want to turn into a separate brand of its own because nobody else is really tackling it as a standalone product. And that's where Backoops comes in, providing data protection services for small and medium businesses.
Love that. Anything else that you'd like to add on to that, Dean, or does that give a good understanding of the business?
Just about sums it up, really.
Yeah, it sums it, and I always find this interesting. And I'll classify you as an IT business, right? Because it's just easy to put you in that group. Don't get offended. I'm going to put you in that group. So when you talk about data services, people in your industry will completely understand what you're talking about. But for the common man, the common person that has only got half a brain like me, what does that actually mean? So what does Backoops do?
In terms of Backoops, we provide literally backing up your business data is the core area of it. There's additional services in terms of managing your IT infrastructure, monitoring it, making sure you're identifying what needs patching so you don't get hacked, and detecting malware and the ransomware that's doing the rounds these days. That covers everything from your workstations, your laptops, your mobile devices, G Suite, Office 365, through to your servers, whether they're Linux or Windows.
So one of the things that we are seeing is more and more people working from home. And I would suggest, or maybe ask the question, that because people are working more from home, would you say that their data is more at risk, or?
Potentially, yes. If employees are using their own devices, there's that potential there. If they're not protected adequately from malware on their home network, if they've got other devices accessing it, then it all puts an extra burden on businesses to protect their data. Especially if the employees are storing data on their laptops. If they're not backing those laptops up, then there's the potential there that they could lose data if something happens. Laptop thefts from cars or from homes, etc., or just the laptop gets dropped and loses some work that's not been protected.
Again, I'm naive. Most people are, though. I think when I put myself in the right group. Most of my information is stored on things like OneDrive now, or things like Google Drive now. I know our business pays for G Suite, so we get more storage and all that.
Yeah.
Is that not already backed up? Does that not just do it manually for you, or?
The thing you have to remember with most cloud services, they are backed up, but not for your benefit. If you lose something, if you delete something, if you don't get it out the recycle bin quick enough, it's gone forever. You're not going to get that back. The other risk, of course, is malicious behaviour, be that an employee or somebody hacks your account. If they delete your G Suite account, which can be done quite easily by mistake, then that's gone. You're not getting that back. Google aren't bringing that back for you, not unless you're spending significant sums with them, and even then, you're probably on your own. And it's a similar story with most cloud services. Backed up for their benefit, not yours.
And you've got to think of it too, where people can also edit your files when you use things like OneDrive. So if they do delete them, they're gone.
I do remember many moons ago when I was part of sort of a corporate office, there was lots of talk about moving from one CRM system to another CRM system, moving from Google to Microsoft, and we'd agreed when all that was going to change, and all of a sudden I had no G Suite anymore, and I was like, I didn't realise that it was going to go. I thought I'd still have it, and then it wasn't just me, there was hundreds of people going, where's all my information? And it was very much how you identified it.
Yeah.
Gone forever. So guys, obviously these are the lockdown interviews about, we all knew that there was going to be sort of a health issue hitting our shores, probably end of January. I don't think anybody ever anticipated how much of an issue it was going to cause, not just from a health perspective, but also from an economic perspective, a commercial perspective. I don't think anybody is better placed than you, Dean, to actually share your experience about what you went through and how you saw this happening firsthand.
Yeah, well, just before it really started to kick off, I had a holiday booked. And because the travel advice at that time was go, there was really no travel advice. So went away with my mum, was in America for a week, and then basically it all hit. There was malls, shops were shutting. I think the day before they actually did a lockdown, we were in the one of the outlet malls, and just walking around, there was some shops open, some shops with signs in the window, and it was just a very surreal experience to be in the middle of something like this happening. And it was one night, everything fine. The next day, they're saying basically, if you want to go out for a drink, this is your last day. Bars are going to be shutting. And it was just people not so much panicking, but just coming to the realization that this is going to be life-changing for a period of time.
That must have been surreal for you, being in a different country, on holiday, and then all of a sudden being contained to your hotel, in essence.
Well, the other issue is we were in the hotel and we only had that for a week because we were supposed to be traveling along to New Orleans and then somewhere else. And we just really didn't know what to do. And then we then looked online at flights, and our flight wasn't cancelled. It was still actually scheduled, but every flight before that and every day going forward, the flights were being cancelled day after day. And for us, it was a bit of a worry as well. How are we actually going to get home?
So did you have to continue your trip through America whilst everything was in lockdown, or did you manage to get a flight home? Or
well, because another personal side of it as well is my mum's immunosuppressed, who I was traveling with. And when the advice from the government then was get home as soon as you can, it was worrying about, are the flights going to be really busy? Do I want to fly out via New York, which was a hotspot of COVID? And do I want to fly back to London and then have to fly to Manchester? And also trying to get my mum a mask. There was all issues like that, which it was very hard to do. We ended up just getting a nice Airbnb for 2 weeks, so we could actually just wait till the flights calmed down a bit. And then we ended up flying back through Dublin and then to Manchester. But that was pretty risky, because when we actually got on the flight, went from Houston to Chicago, when we got on the flight in Chicago, they were checking to make sure that last flight from Dublin was going back, or we would just have been stuck in Chicago at that point.
Wow, such a surreal experience.
Crazy.
I know me and Karl were actually joking about it a little bit, but such a surreal experience to actually have lived that.
Quite expensive as well when you go for the last flight of where it should be about 350 quid, 400, 500 to get back, to go to $1,100 each.
Yeah.
And then you've got to sort your travel insurance and everything when you get back. It was very strange.
I can imagine. So really experienced that lockdown, that shutdown of commercial units firsthand, and witnessing that probably a couple of weeks before we saw it. So obviously it shouldn't really have a dramatic impact on your business, because ultimately your business is out there. It's not in here, right? So with more people working from home, no doubt you've actually been helping more people than you probably ever helped before. But how's your business sort of adapted? What has this enabled you to do this lockdown period?
It's given us a bit of time, I think, to look at things, because a lot of our customers, they're not bricks and mortar, so it hasn't really affected us a lot commercially, but it has been quieter. We have noticed less people working, there's less people wanting advice and help on things, so we have noticed that. So it's been a good time for us to sit down and look at some things that we've been wanting to do for a couple of years, but just never really had the time to get onto. And obviously one of those things is Backoops is taking our backup and data protection service and putting it in its own brand and giving it sort of the treatment it deserves, really.
Yeah, and I've got to say the brand looks so good. So now Backoops is now launched. This is something that I know you've both spoke about doing for some time now, and it's great to see that journey of taking that idea and concept and really just running with that and getting it to launch. So what are people to expect from Backoops going forward, Karl?
A great service. At the end of the day, we're looking to provide the best service we can to small and medium-sized businesses. We want to be approachable, upfront, and clear. We're not hiding anything about our pricing. It's all there upfront. I think we've got a fairly unique pricing model that we just charge you for what you're actually using. We don't make you book in advance that you want X number of gigabytes of data. You just back up what you want, protect your devices, and we tell you what the total is at the end of the month, and that's what you pay for. If you back up less the next month, we pay less the next month. I think it's fairly unique.
So you guys have probably had different issues to overcome in the last few months to most people, with you sort of launching a new IT infrastructure backup program, website, business. What issues have you had to overcome in that time?
I think it's been how we do this and work remotely, how we coordinate all this working remotely. We've not been able to go out and sit down with designers, etc., like we normally would. We go down and sit with them and have meetings, that face-to-face contact, and run through ideas, etc. So I think it has been coming up with more effective ways of working remotely. I know that might sound odd for an IT-based company. Obviously, we are used to working remotely, but not for this length of time. We're talking maybe a few days or a week, but not for 2-3 months now. So we've had to come up with new ways of working together so we can work as an effective team.
I think as well, it's working alone more than remotely. Normally, when you're in an office, you have that social interaction, and it's a little bit harder to sustain motivation when you're just sat here thinking, you've got to do it, but sometimes you've just really got to push yourself and make sure stuff does get done.
At the beginning, I remember going, so I moved out. When did I move out of my office? I decided one day that it was just me in the office, right? So all my team had said, look, work from home. I'll work from the office. I'll use that as a hub for me. And I remember one day going, I now think it's socially unacceptable for me to drive to the office and just, even though I was on my own, it just felt a little bit wrong. So I remember going, I rang the wife and I said, I think I'm going to start working from home because people are looking at me really weird when I'm parking up outside the office. And to start off with, it was actually quite exciting. I was working from home, I had the kids on tap. I'd never seen the family as much in the last 10 years than I had probably in those few days, because I just had snippets all day, every day. The kids weren't at school. So it was actually quite exciting. And it wasn't until probably 3 to 4 weeks in that I started getting, first thing that I got was screen fatigue. And I noticed that when I was going to sleep at night, my eyes weren't going to sleep. My brain wanted to sleep, but my eyes were still flickering behind my eyelids. Fortunately, I got given some advice to download a program called Flux on my computer, which really helped, got rid of some of the migraines. Now, and I completely get that motivation standpoint that one of the things that we need as human beings is connection. It's actually something that we need to survive. Without connection, we get depressed. So, and unfortunately, that's going to be an issue going forward. A client of mine who opened their office this week with all the social distancing measures, what they've actually said is it's harder than working at home. Because the moment that you come into contact with somebody, all the social interactions kick in. And all of a sudden you want to shake somebody's hand, you want to pat them on the back. And when you haven't seen somebody for so long, the first thing that lots of people want to do is you want to give them a hug. And you just can't do that. So it's even more suppressing. So one of the things that I think we will see is more and more people working remotely going forward.
Yeah, we're kind of anticipating the same thing, to be honest. We've said, I think this is going to change for a lot of businesses where they've been resistant to doing things in the past and saying, no, you can't work from home. Well, a lot of them have just proved, well, actually, yeah, you can. It's the same as us with video calls, to be honest. We've always been fairly resistant to doing video calls, but it's kind of the new normal now. It's like I spend so many hours a day on Zoom or doing quizzes even in the evening, doing social things on Zoom. It's ridiculous. So it's something that we've said we're going to do now, and we now offer to customers. If you want to do a video call, because it's actually easier sometimes, along with our normal remote support services where we can log in, etc. But doing a video call, it's just more effective.
I think as well, with the amount of people who have been using Zoom, from whether it be kids to the older people who have got businesses, it's just going to be easier to make contacts and actually introduce yourself as a business, because people aren't going to have that stigma there, where before it was, oh, I've got to do this, that, and the other to do a video call. Oh, what's it going to be like? And it is just basically everyone has just taken it on board.
Yeah, and if anything, what it's done is it's completely got rid of regionalism. You know, I was speaking to a client the other day that most of her work was done in Sheffield, not in South Yorkshire, in Sheffield. And all of a sudden, she's gone from being quite a remote, localised business to having clients in Cumbria, London, Scotland, and Canada. And none of that would have even been, she would have never thought of that before all this. So with change, there's always ups and downs, right? There's things that go well, there's things that don't go so well. So I'm going to ask you both these questions. So what adjustments that you've made are you going to keep on? Even when all this is over, and hopefully it will be over at some point in time, and there will be some kind of old school normality where we can go to the pub, we can hug our siblings that don't live with us. But what adjustments are you going to keep on doing that you've learned during this period, Dean?
Well, for me, it's more the video side of it. When we have issues, we can talk through them without holding phones up to our ears. And it's actually, in a way, when you use instant messenger and things like that, you can't actually see the responses on people's faces. And sometimes, you know, you can read them a bit more as well. Also, when you have issues and you want to show someone something, you can just share your screen. And it makes everything a lot quicker. No one's got to run over to your desk and have a look. Not that they can now anyway, because they've got to stand 2 meters away. But it certainly helps.
Completely agree. I've seen my meetings have been, well, I hope so anyway, being far more efficient. I've got to admit, I don't necessarily enjoy them as much, because I do quite like that connectivity with other human beings, and there's subtle things that you can't read over video screen, like body language is difficult to read over video. But I suppose in an industry like yours, it must have increased efficiency, because you're not waiting for somebody to explain. You can all of a sudden, well, just share your screen with me. Let me show me what you're talking about. So that must have really helped. Karl, anything else to add to that?
No, not really. That's it. The video calls are, to just improve things so much from just having a normal sort of phone call or using a text-based chat system. I mean, with the video calls, we're still using the text-based chat system, because it's kind of like, well, what do you think of this? And just ping an image file over or whatever. But yeah, it certainly makes things a lot more productive, I think. A much more effective team. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you could go back to the 1st of March, knowing what you know now, let's go back in time. You've got a time machine. Some people don't want it. I do. I want that time machine. So if you could go back to the 1st of March, is there anything that you would have done sooner?
Yeah, I'd have had a shorter haircut.
It is looking incredible. I definitely need to put a sort of a collage together of all my clients before, during, and after, because they're all turning into the nutty professor.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. So yeah, for a personal point of view, I would definitely have done that. For a business point of view, it's probably looking for those tools that we now use to work more effectively remotely. I would have looked for them sooner rather than trying to use the ones that we'd got. And it would have saved a bit of time. But other than that, I don't think there's much I would have changed, to be honest.
Dean, maybe change the
Probably not have gone on holiday. Basically, look after myself a bit more, mental health wise, because I've never actually been through anything like this. I'd always been quite strong mentally, and this is just give my mental health a bit of a battering. So it would be just to look for signs and actually look for help as well when you are feeling a bit
So, look, that is so important and so powerful of a message to deliver as well, because whilst I'm never going to undermine the health impact that COVID has had across the UK, I would say mental health is going to have a far more significant impact going forward. Not just from people in the working world, but kids that haven't seen their friends for 3 months, and more than likely going to be near on 6 months now, because with lots of people being told that schools just aren't going back until September now. And mental health is going to be so important. So, yeah, and the difficulty is it was so difficult to prepare for.
Yeah.
You know, I remember speaking to all my clients really early on and talking about health in 3 different ways. From a commercial standpoint, obviously health in the business is so important, but also from your perspective, having a healthy mind, body and spirit is just so important when you get this claustrophobia of just it being you.
Yeah, I think that's what it was with me. With me being quite an extrovert person, I have quite a large social group of friends as well. It was then coming into an office where you are just working by yourself and you're going home just to the same people. You don't get that same interaction, and then you can't see family, friends, and it just gets a bit, it just weighs on top of you. And I've always been, as I say, quite strong mentally and never suffered with anything like that. And I guess there are a lot of people out there who will be going through the same thing, and it's just that they really should talk to people, because people are there to help.
Yeah, and even if it isn't now, definitely when we come out of this and we go back to those social settings that just aren't social anymore, that's also going to have an impact on people, because already you're second guessing what you're doing, and it's difficult. So I love this question. Karl, I'll come to you first. What are you most, I think I already know the answer. What are you most looking forward to when all this is over?
Well, actually, Sunday lunch with family at
Nice.
one of the local pubs. They do a great Sunday lunch. So yeah, looking forward to taking family there instead of having it as a takeaway every now and then. Going there and then just doing like those social things again, instead of doing the pub quizzes online with friends on Zoom. Actually going out and seeing them, and then after that, a haircut.
The pub and the Sunday lunch first. I'd say that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Just put a hat on. Dean?
Ooh, I think probably a nice meal out somewhere, a good cocktail, a hug. It's been, I think the last person I hugged was actually my mum, because I'd been with her for that amount of time. In America, it was, I think, the 1st of April.
Wow.
And I'm quite a tactile person. So it's that kind of stuff I'm really missing, to be honest. And the gym and a good haircut.
I'll give you a hug the next time. I'll give you a hug. Yeah, and look, it's the same with a lot of people. I think before all this, we all got a little bit privileged. You know, I remember speaking to my grandparents before all this, not at the same time. And I remember my grandma saying, "You are so privileged, you've got no idea. The things that you do with your kids at the drop of a hat, we had to plan for months in advance and save up for." And I think the sort of, as we are as a human race now, everything is just on tap. We can have, or we could have, what we wanted, when we wanted, whenever we wanted it. And what lockdown did was just completely take that away overnight. So I think a lot of people have gone through that sort of spiritual healing perspective about just being generally thankful about what they've got in front of them at all times that we've just not had. All right, so last question is more about what you can take from all this personally. So what have you learned about yourself during this, Dean?
That I'm not as strong as sometimes I think I am. And there are people around me that I can talk to. And I should do that more often. And it's just to look after myself a bit more than I have been doing. Because when things change, nobody likes change.
Rule number 1 in life: if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anyone else. And I think that has been a lesson learned by a lot of people. And lots of people thought they were taking care of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I was in that boat.
And then having that realization that actually maybe I've not paid enough attention to my health and mental health, spiritual health, and everything else that I should have. Good one, I like that. Karl?
Similar sort of thing. If I've got something on my mind, I should talk about it rather than just keep it in there and keep running over it. I tend to be, when things hit the fan, I tend to be quite task oriented, so I don't necessarily always see everything that's going on. So yeah, I've learned that I need to pay more attention to that as well, and sometimes look out to the sides, look in the peripheral vision every now and then.
That's a good one. I really like that. Okay, so for people that are watching this, there's going to be people that are going, well, I don't back my stuff up. I don't even know really what that means. How do they get involved with a company like you? What would be the first step?
If they're not sure, they can ring us, they can email us, they can live chat to us, anything like that. We'll always give advice. As the email address says, it's advice. It's not sales, it's advice. It's advice@backoops.com for that reason, because we will genuinely give as impartial advice as we can possibly give. In 20 years of business, we've never sold somebody something that wasn't suitable for them. If it's not suitable, we'll say, because it's just not our way.
I think that's one of the things we, when we were first setting this up, there are quite a few companies doing it, but there are no one that you can actually get in touch with on a more of a personal level. They're all big corporations, and they just don't really care about the customer as much. So with us, it's like advice, free phone number, just get in touch.
I also like the fact that you've made the decision during lockdown to actually give people 30 days for free so they can actually try it out. Because this is one of those services that you're not really sure what it is until you've actually done it. So what's that 30-day trial entail, and how do you get it?
30-day trial, it's all over our website. You can't really miss it on there. It's a quick, simple form. It'll take about 2 minutes for people to sign up. Then they get a quick email from us, just need to do a couple of security bits, and then they get access to the trial. They'll get an email with a little video link that tells them how to get up and running if they're not sure. And again, they can call us. So they get access to the full range of services with that 30-day trial. There's no restrictions. There's no restrictions on what you want to back up. If you want to back up 200 PCs and 400 email accounts in that, that's fine. We've no problems with that. There's no restrictions at all on it.
Wow. So for those of you that realise that maybe your data security isn't up to the scratch or to the standard that it should be, you might want to give it a little bit of a test. And I really love businesses that just back themselves by going, look, just do it. Just do it for 30 days. You don't like it, well, don't pay for it. So I really, really, really like the fact that you've done that. So Karl, Dean, great to have you on the lockdown interviews, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Backoops does in the next few months. No doubt you'll be helping many, many, many companies, not just in Sheffield, but around the UK as well. Hopefully around the world. You never know now.
Well, that's it. Yeah, hopefully we can but dream.
The world is literally your oyster. All right, guys, great to see you, and no doubt I'll see you on the other side of lockdown.
Yep, thank you very much.